Hello guys, this is James here. Did this several times. Okay, so here we go again. Take 9. Go to the gaps. I literally just had this about 10 minutes ago where someone basically said evolution has so many gaps, it must be creation. It must be God. No. The answer is never God did it. It's that I don't know. When I was 22 years old, my mom came in over there, right? My mom sat right there, and I sat in one of the chairs over there, and she read the Bible to me. As an atheist, it's like, what are you doing? Like, really? You're reading me your book? I know your book. I'm an atheist. That's something I do. I mean, I haven't read your book. That doesn't mean I don't know your book. Trust me, I know your damn book. It's the reason I don't read it. It's the reason why I don't want to be associated with anyone that does. Because that book is pure evil. It's evil. It promotes sexism. It promotes racism. It promotes this us versus them mentality. And I just do not condone this hate on people because they're different. I know that I'm placing Christians and other religious people in kind of a negative fashion, but let's face it, there are Christian terrorist organizations, there are Muslim terrorist organizations, there's probably even Jewish terrorist organizations. And while I admit, yes, that religion has brought people together, that doesn't mean that's a good thing. I mean, the KKK was brought together because of religion. They're fucking Christians. Fucking Christians. And the KKK hates blacks. They hate Jews. Those are Christians. Fucking Christians. And it's obvious that if you're black or you're a Jew, but basically if you're not a white guy or a white woman, then this Christian group is going to hate you. That's getting off topic. So basically the idea here is there's so many gaps in evolution, it must not be true, right? It must be creation. I have a really big problem with the God did it. Because it's not an answer. It's a lazy answer. If you're going to say that's an answer at all. The God did it answer is a half answer at best. Because what it's saying is that I do not know, but I'm going to pretend, I'm going to act like I know. I have 4 questions that you should answer before you start telling me your God exists. Question 1. Can they exist? Can any gods exist in this universe? Right? Can they exist in this universe? Question 2. Now that we know they can, do they exist? Question 3. Now that we know they can exist and that they do exist, which ones exist? Which gods exist? And the final one is, does this god / goddess deserve to be worshipped? Are their actions justified? And in most cases, no. Okay, take the flood story. I like to go to this one a lot because it's a very easy way to show how stupid Christians tend to be. Okay? The flood story, right? God doesn't like that mankind is doing things. You know, gambling maybe, or, you know, having sex or whatever. So instead of, I don't know, sending an angel down to these places and be like, hey guys, you know, you're kind of pissing off the big guy. I'm going to just kind of tell you, you may not want to do that much longer. I'm letting you know that what you're doing is kind of pissing off the big guy. So you got like 7 days to to put this to like a minimum here. I'm not saying you have to stop. What I'm saying is cut it down a bit. By like half. Okay? No. What God does is this. Okay, I don't like that you're doing shit using the free will that I gave you. I'm just gonna kill 99.99999999999% of all life because one particular species that I made isn't doing what I want them to do. It's the equivalent of a 5-year-old being told he can't get the candy bar and then throwing a tantrum and being a complete embarrassment to his parents. Except this 5-year-old is capable of leveling cities. And often does. A lot. Okay. Fossilization is an exact process. It is not likely that you're ever going to find a complete skeleton, and in most cases you won't. It's the reason why we have to walk with what we got. If we have 90%, we can walk out, for the most part, the other 10%. If you go into a room, you know, there was a party the other day, right? There was a party the other day, and you wasn't there, you were doing something else. You come into the room, right, and you had no idea that there was a party. You go into the room, and there's food, there's candy wrappers, you know, whatever. There's soda pop bottles all over the floor. There's soda cans all over the floor. There's potato chips and, you know, whatever. And you didn't know about the party, but you could, using the evidence, you know, presented to you, deduce that, hey, there was some party that happened here. That yesterday someone threw a party and they had ice cream, they had barbecue chips, they had regular plain chips, they had Jello, they had orange juice, they had apple juice, they had Pepsi, they had Coke, you know? And you don't have to have attended, you didn't even have to know about it, but you can deduce that there was a party going on the other day because there were soda bottles there, there's ice cream containers with no ice cream in them. And that's the same way that how people in the crime industry that figure out how, you know, who shot who could have done it. You know, crimes aren't going to be videotaped. You have to come in after the fact and be like, okay, here was a 9mm bullet. Here was some footprints in the sand here, or mud or whatever. Right? And we can tell, okay, this person has, you know, a size 10.5 shoe. Alright? Or, you know, based on the blood spatter here, we can safely assume that this person is around 6 foot. Right? And we can deduce it because of that video cam over there that this attack happened at around 10:30 at night, right? And you don't have to have been there to know that. This is the same reason why scientists with bones be like, okay, here's a leg bone and here's a hand bone, or, you know, here's a femur. You know, what kind of creature size could have had these bones? And so you could look at the leg bone, for example, and be like, okay, this bone is 6 feet long. What animal could have a leg bone that is 6 feet long? It's a pretty big fucking animal. It's definitely no cat. I doubt it's a horse. It may be a dinosaur bone. Okay? Well, here's a skull, and it fits on the palm of my hand. Well, we can safely deduce that's probably a mouse. That's probably a mouse. Or maybe a baby cat. Okay? Or here's a lower jaw, and it has these really big teeth for tearing up muscles. We can deduce, yeah, that it's a meat eater that doesn't eat plants, that it eats other animals. Evolution is a science that's trying to understand how life, not its origins, but how life, after the emergence into being life forms, became what they are. Now, if you're trying to say, how did life begin, that's not evolution, that's abiogenetics. That's a completely different subject. That's a completely different science. But when I hear people say, well, evolution has so many gaps, yeah, it has a lot of gaps, in fact. But go back 20 years and you'll find even more gaps. Some of those gaps have been filled in. They've been filled in. And the gaps that we have today will eventually also be filled in. We will never fill the whole tree of life from single cell to humans. But we are beginning to piece together the branches. We are beginning to duct tape the missing branches back into the tree of life. We are finding the missing twigs to the branches that are missing on the tree of life. And eventually we will have most of those missing twigs to those missing branches that are missing on the tree of life. We have found several of them, and we've put them back up. We've duct taped them to the tree of life. And we will continue to find the missing pieces of the tree of life. And the reason why we do this, and the reason why we can, is because we do not simply say, God did it. We look. We ask questions, and we find answers. Scientists and atheists are not content to simply sit on our asses and say, God did it. No. In fact, we want to know. And when I'm asked, let me straight out say this. I can be convinced that God exists.